And we're live. Cool. Welcome to everyone. It's Monday, the 10th of August, 2015. We're doing the TVP UK Study Session, FAQ 46, 47, and 48. Got a whole load of people here today, so we're going to start off with a little get-to-know-you introduction type stuff. So I'll start off to give a general idea. Don't go in, I don't know, say what you want to say. You don't have to say too much. I'm Aidan Fry. I'm 26 from Swindon. I am a point of contact for TVP in the UK. Have been now for maybe a year and a half. Been around learning about TVP for probably 2.5 years in total. I'm also working on the TVP mobile apps development team, and I kind of help run the mobile application side because that's what my job is in the real world, in the capitalistic world. Is I'm a software programmer for Android, and yeah, that's me. So from my screen, I'll say Adam next.
Hi guys, I haven't got a webcam yet, but I'll sort that. I'm Adam, I'm from Norwich, and I've just graduated from a Bachelor's of Science in Ecology. So a lot of what I studied was to do with interactions between animals, plants, parasites, pathogens and everything. Yeah, and that got me interested in looking at how unsustainable we're living under our current systems. And through some way or another, I stumbled across the Venus Project and the resource-based economy, and it just made so much sense to me as such a better way of managing things. And that was maybe 2 years ago, so it took a lot of... I was very skeptical. It took a long time to turn around. I was actually training to be an officer in the army at one point, so I was the complete other end of the spectrum, you know, really indoctrinated into patriotism and all that stuff. So it's been a really interesting journey to now see things differently.
Nice. Next on my list is Daniel.
Hi there, I'm Daniel, or Danny. I've known about the Venus Project for about 2 years now. I've been coming to these hangouts for how many weeks? 5 or 6. 21 from Kesha. Ben. 21 I'm 21 years old from Cheshire. Go to University of Liverpool, studying maths, and I love these hangouts. It's great to connect with like-minded people. It's made a bit of hope.
Nice, thanks Daniel. Elio.
Hello, my name is Elio. First time I'm here on the Hangout session, and I live in Manchester at the moment. And I still remember the day I found out about the Venus Project. I was actually on Facebook, and there's this Portuguese rapper called Valete, and he actually posted the Zeitgeist Moving Forward film with a title on it. And I got really curious, and I started watching the first, I think, 5 minutes, which tells about the story of Jack Fresco when he was in school. And I was really fascinated about this guy, you know, like, who's the guy at the beginning of the movie? So I watched the first 5 minutes, and then I thought about it. On the next day, I started watching the old documentary, and it really blew me away. And I was already starting, kind of getting frustrated with the problems I see nowadays in our system, you know, especially education, because I was at university at that time. And what I saw in the Zeitgeist movie, and I started wondering who Jack Fresco was, and then I got more into it, and I found out more about the Venus Project. And I'm still learning more about the Venus Project and trying to talk to other people to get to know about it.
Judas.
My button pressing skill is not so impressive today. So first I just want to say it's very cool to see all of you kind of introduce yourself in such a way. Fascinating stories, honestly, you know. And previously, Danny, you know, you've been coming here, like you said, for 5-6 weeks. I didn't know you were in university and maths and stuff, and that's fucking cool. And Adam, you got a degree in psychological sciences. And then Elio says he's in Manchester, of all things. What? So it's really quite a shower of cool information, to me anyway. Yeah, well, I'm the blathermouth, really, here, unfortunately. My name is Judas. Originally from Lithuania. Been living here for 11 years. Learning about TVP since watching Zeitgeist Addendum, and that's 2011, so 4 years now. I am currently undergoing POC orientation and will finish tomorrow. So that's very cool. And the next step is me hosting a thing, and then maybe I'll be of use somehow to these people. That's me for now.
Yeah, I'm Mick from South Yorkshire, 30 years old. Went through Zeitgeist before I got to the Venus Project, but I found that the Venus Project had more like education and I don't know, a more enjoyable path to go through. And I've really enjoyed the POC orientation, and I think I'm officially POC as well. So it's great to be part of the group. Yeah, I think I've been coming for about 2 years, 2 years, something like that. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. As Lida said, it's really good to just kind of say hello.
Don't forget David.
Oh, sorry. Because he doesn't have a picture.
You can't see me. I'm a secretive person.
Cool. Sorry, David.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Mick. Yeah, my name's David. I live in Sheffield in South Yorkshire, which is just down the road from where Mick lives. And got a varied occupational background, including the Department for Work and Pensions and online media planning and buying in the London ad world, English teaching, academic skills tutoring. I'll call myself a writer, let's put it that way. And I first heard about the Venus Project when I was very heavily involved with Occupy Sheffield, and we had the National Occupy Conference over at the Citadel there. That was about 3 years ago, and it was the first time I heard it mentioned. And there was this whole project which seemed to really be trying to think about all the problems, not just sort of tinkering around the edges and putting a little bit here and a little bit there, but something to really sinking its teeth into things. So since then, I've been reading the newsletters which have been coming through my mailbox, and also I've looked at the TVP documentary on YouTube, and I've been reading a few things about Jack Fresco as well.
Brilliant. That's really cool. It's nice to have someone with a background in Occupy. I thought there would be people from Occupy coming this way. You're the first person I've actually met. We're
probably all hanging around in the background, waiting to get the confidence to talk. I don't know. Yeah.
Nice.
And a fellow writer, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That's really good. Like writers, I know Mick, you've been working on it. We could do with writers to start doing some more UK orientated stuff, but that's extracurricular. So going back to the actual FAQ questions, so we're going to go through this. I don't know. We won't say in order, but we kind of talk about our answers and then we'll look at the real answer. Generally, after we've looked at the real answer and read out the real answer of the website, it's kind of time for any extra questions that we have around it. Adam, I know you kind of were talking to me a little bit earlier about some stuff, which would be interesting to talk about. So maybe I was looking through the questions we had today. Maybe just after the second question, we can get into that.
Okay.
But generally, if you have any questions, raise them as we go along. We kind of have this script, but it's loose. Cool. So question 46 was, I was trying to think of an intermediate bridging solution to the problems of automobile collisions. I'm curious as to hear Jack Fresco's, thoughts about such a common problem. 6 million plus occur every year. I assume that means accidents and automobile collisions. So does anyone want to go through their answer first?
mine's nice and short. I wrote automated cars or other automated transport, and possibly underground motorways or overground motorways and paths that cross either above or below a road. Just because, as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong, but as far as I've seen with the automated stuff, it seems to be at least more safe than humans manually driving. You don't get drink drivers, by racers, and then there's just the general, I call it the sneeze factor of having a general accident. Like, I don't know, you slip up, you check a message, and people are dead.
Good answer. Anyone else?
Just want to add with this one, it seems like the question was sort of maybe based quite a long time ago. So back in, I don't know, 2000 or something, way before we were as close as we are now to the automated car situation. So I think the whole bridging intermediate solution is kind of almost redundant. We're only, what, 5 or 10 years away from getting automated transport on the roads anyway. Like they're being tested now in numerous places around the world. So
I do agree. The questions that are on here are sometimes worded a little weirdly, or it's quite often, like this one was definitely someone who wasn't an English native speaker.
Yeah.
So you sometimes have to kind of like try and pick out what they were trying to ask. But yeah, it's a good point. I'll go with mine because actually I work for a car firm now, and from what I've seen, being in it about 6 months, like automation is definitely making its way into the sector. We're already seeing vehicles with many additional sensors on automobiles. Even today, before it's fully automated, you've got collision warnings, adaptive cruise control, various things like this, lane departure warnings, all taking part because we have more sensors in the car, which allows us to take more appropriate reactions automatically. Volvo, for one, have declared a goal to have no deaths caused by their new Volvo automobiles by 2020, which is a pretty good, interesting goal. I just share that little tidbit.
yeah, that's cool.
The big challenge is getting old cars off the road and upgrading the bulk of cars that are out there to a standard of automobile. To a standard of automatic automobile that means it's safe for everyone rather than just a few who can afford it. And really this comes down to failing of the capitalist system. Similarly, we can upgrade our infrastructure to minimize automobile usage, and that will just cause less deaths. And that comes down to good city planning. So that's me.
Yeah, can I just add to that?
Yep.
Like Mick was saying, the separation between pedestrians and cars has always been something that city planners and urban planners have tried to achieve. I mean, here in Sheffield in the 1960s, we had this massive network of underpasses and pedestrian subways and grade separation of traffic. It didn't work because of the way it was implemented. The subways became places for people to get mugged, and the roads sort of split up the urban area and made them very isolated. But it's something that would have an effect on making cars safer, because one of the main accidents is avoiding pedestrians in urban areas, which causes collisions. But the other point I made was moving towards clean and efficient mass transportation. Obviously, people would have to have the choice. It might be that people do want cars and smaller transportation, more personalised transportation to get to certain places. But where it can be put in place, where there are places with a high volume of people going to and from wherever it is, whether it's hanging out at somewhere where you get food or somewhere for recreation, there should be environmentally clean, mass transportation systems, however they would be put in place, however people would want them to be put in place. That's it.
I agree. I think it's good. You can also envision a world where you have personalized mass transport, as in, say like monorails, but you can have your own personal blob where you can go to somewhere specifically on that given kind of system. It's not really mass transport, but it's in terms of infrastructure upgrade and planning properly, which is basically underlying your point. Cool. Anyone else want to share what they wrote down?
I don't have like an actual answer on the sheet, so I thought we were doing the 3 previous questions. But
yeah, my bad.
it's okay. But like for example, in the circular cities, there would be no cars because it was all public transport on mainly transbayers and stuff. So there would be no problems like within the cities where most people, you would imagine, would be living.
Yeah.
It's a kind of case for creating instead of upgrading the current system, which is individual cars, to try and get them to a technological standpoint, that becomes more challenging in terms of resource consumption than designing a whole new system, which kind of is, switching the paradigm is the kind of way to phrase it in technological terms. But it will end up being something like transbayers and mass transport in the circular cities.
I mean, there's already, sorry, I've just, something else I wanted to add. There's already, of course, the move towards car sharing in the sort of our current cities, where people, park a car and then it gets collected by somebody else. When you think about how inefficient car ownership is, people will shell out thousands of pounds for a car, which they'll use 1 hour, 2 hours out of 24.
Yeah.
And it can't be used by anybody else, apart from it stays in the car park or the garage. If that kind of personal transportation was able to be used by anybody, and perhaps you could have some, technology where it could be personalized, or there would be sort of separate, different sizes of transport, depending on the individual needs of a family or a couple or a single person. And perhaps if they're all going in one direction, they could be put in train, like a mass transportation system, and then also systems where they could go off to different parts if people were going to parts of cities or parts of countries that other people weren't going to, so then become much more personalized.
Yeah. You can't see car ownership being redundant.
No, because your point is a logical one, and humans in current system are far from logical.
Yeah, so, but we're sort of stuck with our financial. If it becomes financially inviolable to, I mean, everyone, if you're rich, you'll always be like, well, I've got my car and I'll just use it as and when I want it. But from a financial viewpoint, as soon as your car is automated while you're at work, you're only using it 1-2 hours a day, Daniel was saying, your car could be a taxi for someone else. It could be earning you money while you sit and do nothing, and humans will do that. So then you're going to have this overabundance of cars that are basically taxis, so car ownership will become pointless because it'll be so cheap to get a taxi anywhere.
Yeah. What will very likely happen is, if car sharing really kicks off, first of all, it really is only suited to cities. It really isn't suited to going cross-country journeys. But say they get around that and it's good. Ownership for the person, for the actual individual, yeah, it will move to Netflix. It will move to subscription-based access.
Yeah.
And so, ownership for that person is not there, but the ownership of the fleet will still be ownership of the corporation who runs that fleet. You know what I mean? So for us, it would not become ownership from a personal point of view would be completely pointless. But there will be various people who will own the cars in today's system, at least.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, like Adam, the way you pointed out, you made your points across very clearly, so the idea makes sense. But it'd have to be just a silly, massive PR campaign to get anybody aboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It'll be a transition, I think. It won't just happen overnight, but in the long run. car ownership should definitely decrease anyway.
I think like if somebody else owns the car, maintains the car like a Google taxi, then that saves a person on like insurance and maintenance costs. So like maybe it'd just be cheaper to get a taxi.
There is actually a trend in at the moment where car ownership is going down. People are moving to cities and they're not buying cars. They're using trams and stuff, and this is recognised in the industry. So the trend is already there. Is kind of being held back by money generally.
Yeah.
There is a trend there of especially young people move to cities and not buy cars.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I've seen that many people now know about things like Uber and blah blah cars, and it seems like people are using this service more and more. And here in UK we have something website called justeat.co.uk, which is like kind of a Uber but for restaurants, and you see that sign like everywhere now. So I think it's a tendency that is becoming more and more popular. People are moving away from past things. I see it all over the place now. Everyone tells me about Uber, even though I've never used it, but so many people tell me about it.
Yeah, and as soon as Uber can get rid of the biggest cost, which is to actually pay the driver of the car, because it's just an automated fleet, Uber is just a profit-making machine.
Yeah.
So that's why the shares in it absolutely skyrocketed as this tech has advanced, because companies, hedge fund investors can see where it's going.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I think they have no interest in taking any, let's say, own a car, because Uber provides a big service of taxis, but yet they own no taxi whatsoever. So I don't see the point of them owning big fleet of cars, and maybe it's not economical good for them. But still, there's a trend of people using this service more and more.
I think I watched it on one of the Venus Project. They released 10 technological documentaries to watch to sort of get your head around it, and one was looking at the future of automated cars, and that just is where I got basically all of my information on it. I did a little bit of extra reading, and it made so much sense from a financial standing, basically. I'll see if I can find the documentary because it was really good.
Okay, I'd like to see that definitely.
Yeah, I think I just made some points in the chat. Cities like Copenhagen, I mean, Scandinavian countries tend to be a little bit more ahead on this kind of progressive thinking anyway. You're actually investing in new public transportation based around bike use, which is interesting. And it's okay for flat cities. If you live in somewhere like Sheffield, it's rubbish because you end up with strained ankles. But you know, that's a good thing. And obviously, it's okay if you're mobile. People who are immobile can't use bikes unless they've got some form of electric motor. And also the number of young people trying to get the driver's license is going down. I think because driving is becoming less and less of an attractive option for people. At one time was this whole car culture, you know, and cars are used to pick up girls, and you know, something to be seen as be cool. But I think now that car ownership is sort of at a point of, or car use is at a point of saturation, and people are seeing what happens with car use, with the traffic that it causes, with the pollution, just the everyday stress and financial drain that it is. I think it is losing, the car culture is declining, and I think probably the challenge is for people, especially younger people who are feeling like that, to move towards something which is more acceptable for them. Because at the moment you've got that situation where they're not comfortable having a car, but at the other time you've got public transport, which isn't public transport in most parts of the world, where it's privately owned and operated for private profit, and the costs of using that go up as well, and also the routes that are planned are just planned for the needs of shareholders and owners. So if people can be some kind of PR campaign to show that if public transport is public, if there's actually mass ownership of transport, and that public transport doesn't have to mean you know, a smelly bus that just goes from home to work. It can take you wherever you want to go. But the technology is there, as we know. That is one way you could drive that kind of culture forward by tapping into that decline of the car culture.
I agree. All right, so feels like we've been on this for a long time. I had a look at the real answer. It is a very long one, and I just kind of maybe what we can do this week for this one at least is to just go and read the answer afterwards, just as like a little bit of homework, and just kind of have a think about how your answer and if there was anything that you missed in the real answer. Just because it's very long, and I know I'm keen to just keep us talking and discussing things rather than just reading out a very long bit. Hope that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So the next question we got is, why is this concept, the Venus Project, superior to other intentional community projects? It's a very interesting question. My one, I said just start off with, in its scope, meaning that it's global in scale and the range of education sources that it brings together, not education sources, subject matters that it brings together under one common concept, and generally the level of technological sophistication of the community projects that are out today are the general big difference between the Venus Project's first city design and community projects. However, we want to look at specific examples to make real comparisons. This is all generalized. So that's me. David?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what the question means by other intentional community projects. The Venus Project is the first all-encompassing attempt at putting in place even just a conversation about how you can approach something differently and sustainably, trying to join up the whole picture rather than just grabbing little bits here and there, like say things like the Green Party do tend to do that kind of thing. It all tends to be very, I would say, weak. It comes across as a bit weak and a bit airy-fairy. This is solid stuff with empirical research involved. It's not new agey or anything like that, and that's a very attractive part of the concept. It's talking about human needs, and human needs drive human behaviour. And whenever that behaviour and needs are driven by a minority, I'll use that Occupy term, the 1%, then we're always going to be stuck in the position we are and never really moving forward, always taking one step forward, 2 steps back. So I think that's why it's interesting.
And I got just a short answer. Resource-based economy is global. Community projects are not usually national unless you count like sports. But if you do count sports, then it just shows us that the world can collaborate at a national level. It's just changing the values so that we're not doing it to kick a football into a net. We're doing it to help each other.
Yeah, solid. I've got basically, I think the resource-based economy is the only intelligent way of managing our planet sustainably. So of all the community projects, and you can run away and try and set up a commune and live as a small group, but eventually one day fossil fuel industries are going to be on your doorstep. So you think of those in the 70s that just decided to try and get away from the monetary system. They set up communes and stuff, and now they're finding fracking is on their doorstep and stuff, and they realize there's nowhere else you can go really. So you've got to look at the entire planet, what resources there are, and how we manage them to look after it. And the resource-based economy is the only thing that I've seen that takes that into account.
Very good answer. I see. Does anyone else want to chime in on this?
I have not answered it directly, but I feel that collection of all you folks contributing your answers is more or less a big, very nice sort of ball of good stuff. So, yeah, it's holistic, holistic, and it doesn't require you to believe in anything other than trying to figure out intelligent ways of managing Earth's resources. And I like that the one thing for me personally, and this is quite the show of my current values. By the way, they're not optimal. Just Ashok is a hardliner. So whenever you get a hardliner speaking, you will know that basically he talks about there is no nicey, there's no icing on the cake, it's just a fucking cake. If you don't like it, then it's just not your taste buds. I'm sorry, move on. Or learn about it, or question. But because Jacques is a hardliner, he will literally portray this information without trying to appeal to anybody. It's just he has observed certain things, certain behaviors in humans, and certain characteristics in either chemicals or materials or geometry or other disciplines of science, and just he literally portrays the findings. If you care not to, have a look and question, then you most likely either just throw slander or turn away. So that personally, my main appeal is, I suppose I'm not answering the question, but the appeal is that Jacques is a hardliner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, so if no one's got any more on this, I'll read out the real answer and we can just cross-check our answers with this.
Cool.
So, bear with me, I have a little spiel just for the recording. TVP FAQ 47. Why is this concept superior to other intentional community projects? Intentional communities attempt to have a better standard of living within our current system, but we see this as patchwork. If there is an economic breakdown, the intentional community falls apart. From our point of view, it is not a feasible solution. It is patchwork of private capitalism for a select few. We are not against intentional communities, but it does not address the problems. It avoids addressing national and international conflict, unemployment, displacement of people by machines, environmental degradation, political corruption, and all the other artificialities of our civilization. Cool. So I think we agree with it.
Yeah.
Basically.
And we need hardliners because the world is run at the moment by hardliners. It's in my view, they're absolute psychopaths and some of the worst people that have probably ever lived that are actually directing things. So yes, if people call people like Jacques Fresco and ourselves hardliners, then hard cheddar, that's just how it is. That's how you get anything acceptable in life. If everyone's just going along singing the same song, nothing happens, and you just end up a blind alley.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to have people who just say it as it is. And you have people like us who can interpret and then make it nice for people who do less.
Sometimes, yeah.
Make it more relevant to certain populations.
Could I sort of interject here with a little bit of what I was asking and inquiring about earlier when I was sending that message to the Venus Project page?
Absolutely.
So we understand that the system, it needs to be overruled completely, and we need to have, if we want to be sustainable as a human species on Earth, a resource-based economy is the ultimate end goal, and then the culture that we generate from that is all going to be evolving just in the right direction. But in the meantime, while we're sort of sat twiddling our thumbs waiting for society to collapse and the monetary system to fail, I want to know what I can do now. Like, I've just graduated, I've got so much free time. I've been working to try and inform people about the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement, and to just educate themselves on the way the system's set up. But I want to go beyond that. So I've also been taking part in things like Food Cycle. So that's where it's a charity that collects food waste from supermarkets that would be going to the bin otherwise, and basically cooks for anyone and everyone in the area, homeless people, wealthy people, it doesn't really matter. It's just anti-waste. But there are other things as well. I just feel like we shouldn't need to wait for society to just collapse before we can act and try and build things better. as a sort of intermediate step. You know, like if we had, say, £10 billion just sat in our pocket, could we build a little city that was a hive to say, look, this is what can be done, completely self-sustaining, we've got 100,000 people living here, we don't need to import or export anything. Obviously we haven't got that, but you know what do you know what I mean?
Have you seen the I forgot what they're called.
Aims and proposals.
Yeah, the aims and the proposals of on the Venus Project website.
The what and proposals, sorry?
Aims and proposals.
Aims and proposals.
It's I forgot. I should go back and read them because I forget them every time. You got it.
Link in the description in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm on it.
But as far in the meantime, before the first city's built, I think it's just educate yourselves. Human behaviours are awesome to learn about, for me especially. But like once you've learned as much as you can about all the things involved, like motivation and stuff for the Venus project or resource-based economy, my idea is for raising awareness, I do poetry readings and go to writing groups and stuff. So like I'll do poetry readings and it's just basically saying, look at the way the system is and look at what we could do just if we apply technology. And I try and when I've noticed when I go to these poetry readings, a lot of people agree with what I'm saying. They've not looked into human behaviour or motivation, and they think that like we're all naturally bastards.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's just talking to everybody, talk to as many people as possible, and I'm hoping. I was talking to Judas about this the other day. If we get enough people into like one place in the UK, maybe we can set up an event where we've got like arts as well as lectures on the different subjects within the Venus project. So we could get like media to come and cover the art, and because they're there for the art, then they might be listening to the lectures as well. But yeah, that's kind of big dreams early on.
Oh no, that's certainly achievable though. I mean, just being with the people from this food cycle, I'm noticing lots of people similar age, similar positions, degrees, can't get on the property ladder, looking at the system, just going, hold on a minute, this is rubbish. And they're all like-minded. A lot of them have heard of the Venus Project and Zeitgeist, and we're sitting here going, we're trying to do what we can. So things like, you know, volunteering at a food cycle place, cooking for people, trying to stop food waste. But we're here still with more free time. We're not going to enter the monetary system as a wage slave. We're, you know, trying our best to stay living on the cheap would be the word, I guess. So, you know, we're stuck. We have to rent. We have to eat. But you can do it very cheaply. So you can get a job working, what, 20 hours a week or something? Yeah, so setting up an event to teach other people. So that's something I think I'll look into doing in Norwich and Norfolk region with these people. If between all of us we've got a bit of free time, I'm sure we could come together to try and work on something in our area.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have like people in your area, which is the kind of the hard thing for most people, it sounds like you've gone very much the right way about this, which is, you know, find something you're passionate in and go out and do it that helps people. So this food cycling thing is absolutely great because you're there, you're face to face with people who are actually in the situation and can see the problems. It's a lot easier to talk to people who are already pushed to the edge than people who are, you know, relaxed in their house on like 200 grand a year or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's really good. If you get a core group of people, then we can, start talking about doing events, doing flyering, you know, getting down the high street, going into, like, joining fairs. You know, if you can get a little fair and you're trumpeting down the street with, like, Venus Project stuff, absolutely great. Getting out there, it really depends on, you know, who you've got around and what opportunities you have.
Yeah.
And what we can do here is we can try and support you as much as possible. For instance, one of the things that we have done in the past with people who want to set up events is if you can get a venue and get a projector or something like that, you can do like screenings of Paradise or Oblivion. Just kind of open screens so people can come, and then afterwards you can do things like FAQ panels and stuff, and we can be here. If you can get Skype or Google Hangouts up, we can be there and actually help you talk to the people there and give you support in your event, even if we're quite a long way away.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. So setting up like a documentary session with people, and then you guys coming in afterwards so people can have Q&A. That's certainly something. Like, I've got access to the university buildings here still. Yeah, it would definitely be feasible to set up.
If you're in with the university, go talk to the film club, talk to the debate club. You know, people who might be interested in this. See if they want to do screenings. You know, there's many things that was possible, and we want to try and do it as much as we can. Basically.
Yeah, cool.
If you're in that situation, I'm really excited. It'd be great.
Yeah, I'm all for stuff like that as well. I'm still at university. I've got 2 or 3 years left. So, get in touch.
Yeah, sounds good.
Something.
And now I know I've got a point of contact who I can use. So if I am, you know, getting a room booked and a number of people coming to watch, I can tell you, sort of guys, if there's a date or a time, see if anyone's available who can aid from like a Google Hangout chat as well at the end of a documentary or something. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for. Me, Mick, and very soon to be Judas. And it'll be open if any of you other guys who aren't put in contact want to come help us. That'd be absolutely great. We're all kind of trying to chip in and do our best, as Jack says.
Cool.
I think, Dave, well, fair enough. Right now, unmute yourself because you wanted to ask a question, you said?
Oh, hi. Yeah. Sorry if you could hear me tapping away on the keyboard there. Yeah, what I was going to say in terms of, I've just put down in the chat on the right-hand side about people said how Occupy was a good lead-in for people learning about the Venus projects, and I think it probably saw a huge amount of people knowing about it. And that was similar to when Mick started talking about an event where people would come to listen to poetry or look at art, and that would lead to people wanting to find out other things in different ways, sort of a multidisciplinary, multi-learning experience. You know, people learn in different ways. They learn kinetically, verbally, orally, depending on or combination of all those things. You know, that's something that we could think about. You know, because Occupy is global, up and downable, you know, completely sort of fluid movement. It's an idea, not a movement really. So that might be some way to go to actually getting the ideas out there. I mean, yeah, just challenging people in your everyday life. When you come across attitudes, you hear somebody say something, you challenge it. You just don't let it go. You know, it's like I remember a few weeks ago, I was in Sheffield City Centre, and I was walking up past the town hall, and this guy was chatting outside, wanting to find a way to where the tax office was in Sheffield, and this old guy was pretending not to understand what he was talking about, you know, because this guy was from overseas. And as this guy, I directed the person to the tax office, and this older guy was saying, "Oh, send them all back home, get them back home, immigrants, that kind of thing." I said, "Oh, well, like me, because I come from Irish background. So you want me to go back home?" "Oh no, not you." "What? Because I'm white. I'm not got brown skin." You know, you don't let it go. You have to keep saying things to people. And anytime you hear people say, "Yes, well, we need money for this, or we need money for that, or we can't do this, or we can't do that," you know, you give them an example and say, "Yes, it can be done, and it's already being done." So if you take the attitude it can't be done, well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Just to cover what I said about that event that I was talking about, I think the hard thing is having people's physical presence. People have got time constraints, people have got money constraints for traveling and things like that. So it's just like at some point in the future when we all have got time and money, which might be hard, then I think
yeah, there are going to be people who won't be able to make it anyway just because of the circumstances. People who are housebound and mobility problems, which is where the great invention of online comes in. And I think also if you just get people talking, an idea starts in people's heads, doesn't it? That they might not even know they're in tune with the Venus project. I didn't, I've had these ideas and I've been looking at similar things all my life, but then I didn't know this existed until 4 years ago. So yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Okay, I was going to say we're going a bit off topic. Go on, Ludus.
No, the original question. So, Adam, you basically said we're twiddling our thumbs and waiting for the collapse. No, that's first and foremost I have to contradict. That's not true in any way, shape, or form at all. Otherwise, things like the choices hours does not come out. Otherwise, things like Roxanne and Jacques working on the script that do not happen. They just basically would literally wait for the pain and chaos. So, not to be sort of very blunt, but I do wish to be clear. So things are moving forward. They're moving forward in more private means, because if essentially every step of the way would be reported on or updated, people's expectations kick in, and Aidan has covered it in multiple other sessions where Jacques and Roxanne get offers, multiple ones, but they do not meet the criteria of what the Venus Project is after. So people, do they come to them for building, for blueprint quotes and whatnot? Yeah, they do. What is their intent? To build a megapolis of business center. Okay, well, this is not something we want to get involved with, so I'm sorry, but goodbye, And that's kind of, so far, as I've gathered, even when I was in the Venus Project in Florida, they literally said they get multiple of these offers, but they all want money from it. So they don't want their name attached to this kind of thing. And in terms of what you can do, you have the most amazing opportunity, because you said you still have access to the university building. Was this correct?
Yeah.
Right. Jacques' #1 request for people was to, if you're able to, get technicians on board, meaning you literally were part of one or another scientific department in your university. Hopefully you still hold any kind of connection or common ground with maybe professors or lecturers.
Yeah, loads.
Okay, well, this is amazing. But so really, if you can still utilize that connection, perhaps there is a quote-unquote an open door for a conversation about some whatever aspect you think would stick to a professor, lecturer, specialist, technician. So that these people, these are the guys and girls who make things move. Somebody does inevitably work on hydro buses or whatever next iteration of cellular battery, so it holds more power and lasts longer.
Unfortunately, the university I'm in is not an engineering sort, which is the sort of thing that we need massively. It's more like I did ecology, so that's more what engineering of the environment, or just understanding the environment. But I do get where you're coming from, absolutely. But yeah, in terms of the professors and stuff, it's not going to be as effective because of the university where I'm in. Perhaps being up in Liverpool or Manchester, it might be different for more like aeronautical engineering places. But for me, I was thinking just the students who are going through university, who their mind is open right now. They're like sponges taking this information in. So all I need to do is get to a few more students, and then likewise we can get more people. More people interested, more people talking about it, like you saying, discussion is going to be huge, and then you can access the people who have mobility issues and so forth as well.
Right. Well, you've now kind of partly answered your own question as well.
Yeah.
But the bit is, look at your own skill set. What is it that you think you really are good at? What do you think would come with minimal amount of effort and get maximum amount of outcome and benefit? And in the process, please do try not to burn out. You know what I'm saying? Because then things like that happen, and then people drop out of radar and they just get upset, really sad, because you do know about the problems, but then because the solution part drained you, you could hold resentment. You know what I'm saying? So just take it slow, and obviously, just like Aidan mentioned, we're here to help if we can. Again, obviously, that is also the part. Then we will try to do our best.
Awesome.
Cool. That's really good. Thanks, everyone. And, oh yeah, we still have another question, unless there's anything more. And gone. Okay, so question 48 is, how are resources distributed equally? Who wants to try this one?
I guessed. I don't think I'm right, but I guess that a computer works out what people need to survive, also working out all the variables included, such as how many people would need access to automated transport, how many resources are available, who's in dire need of food, and then divides it up equally. And I'd speculate that the information will be transparent so that we can see what's happening with the resource, but that could be wrong.
Now, yeah, on that, he's told many times that resources would be resource allocation and what is available would be made available to people to inquiry. So that's good. I'll leave mine to last because it's a bit controversial. Adam?
So yeah, this is a really tricky one. I think it's not just cool. We have 100 units of trees. We have 7 billion people, so everyone gets this much tree, because that's just silly. You know, you kind of supply what everyone needs. It won't happen simultaneously around the world all at once, I don't think. But that's the goal would be to try and get, you know, people's basic needs met first: food, shelter, education, healthcare, water. And once that's done, it's like, cool, everyone's good. Now, what more resources have we got? How can we use them as effectively as we can to improve the well-being of everyone and the earth and biodiversity all simultaneously?
That's good, I like that. David?
Yeah. Oh, hang on. My earpiece has just fallen out. I think I made the point that there was obviously at some point in the past a desire to introduce a monetary system. Nobody knows when. But before then, there'd been big, huge shifts really in terms of human development in the technologies that we use to make sure that resources and wants were met when we changed from the hunter-gatherer to the agrarian culture and started urbanizing. Now somewhere along the line, someone somewhere decided to make a monetary system so that even that was undermined and was ruled by a minority. But I'm not sure when Adam says it's a long time away. I think if that kind of thing is a long time away, it's more to do with the human psyche and people's attitudes about how they want to use resources and technology. I mean, resources at the moment are used not for people's needs or for a democratic want, but by the diktats of capital, which is why they're so wasteful, which is why there's so much pollution and why there's so much exploitation around. So, if you can get rid of that, then resources are going to be more sustainable. If you take oil, oil is dead matter, prehistoric animals, etc. It's been in the ground for millions of years, but people are dying and fighting wars over it and killing people for what is essentially rotten matter that's used to drive industry. You get the defense industry, which uses huge amounts of petroleum products. You get wars started to invade and defend oil-producing states, to get the oil, to make the missiles, to bomb the oil-producing states, to get this ludicrous circular situation. But the technology is there to get things where people want, when they want them to. You've got missile systems that can get, a missile from one side of the world to the other to destroy a city. You've got stock market systems which can get information out in nanoseconds. I used to work in the online media industry. You've got software out there that can tell you in a nanosecond who's gone onto a Marks and Spencer's website landing page to buy a pair of knickers. If you can use technology like that, you can use it to make sure that the resources that people need by a democratic process are actually there when they need it, instead of being dictated by the aims of money.
Okay, so you're saying you distribute resources equally through technology.
But technology and culture. What do we need these resources for? What are they being used for? What is a human need? Who's dictating what the need is, and what the use of these resources should be? There's no way we should be extracting as much as we should from the earth for the reasons why we're doing it. There's no logical
what you've
reason.
just said there has reminded me of the Culture in Decline series by Peter Joseph, the CVD episode where he's saying the technology is there, you're obviously not using it for what we need to. The resources are there in abundance, we're just using them, like you say, for weapons or amassing more oil or whatever it is. So yeah, it's not necessarily a truly long time away. Once we do make the switch, then actually it probably wouldn't take very long at all to go, cool, what do we need to do?
Yeah. Well, Adam, what I think what you were talking about there is we've kind of gone over this a couple of times in this group, trying to understand, because we're talking, what do we do? There's kind of three main timelines where we're talking about, or three periods in the progression of an RBE, which we kind of talk about, which is today, in the transition, and then when we've got a fully formed RBE.
Yeah.
What I think you meant is when we've got a fully formed RBE, then this will mean.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. But obviously once the fully formed RBE is in, it wouldn't take very long.
It's just that difficult bit in between them.
Yeah,
changing people's attitudes and culture, because it's so ingrained in people. And of course, capital uses fear. It's like a cycle of abuse. People, there's the only certain point of reference that people have all their lives, and then when something comes along which looks like it might be a way out, there's this look at that with suspicion and fear as well. So they just hang on to what they know.
Yeah, fear is horrible. I read a really good book about fear and how it's used to completely screw us over. What was it called? I think it was called Fear.
That'd be a good title for a book on fear, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sure it wasn't. I'll go and double check. So just going through my answer. Admittedly, I've realised that I've actually misread the question. The question is resources distributed equitably. And without Googling it, I'm not entirely sure what equitably means. So I'm assuming it says resources distributed equally. So I said, well, not all resources need to be distributed equally along all Earth's inhabitants. A city in polar regions will make available different goods and services to a city in the tropics. What matters is that resources are made available to meet the demands in the areas, and there is an abundance of those resources. The only goods which would be restricted would be because genuine scarcity exists. And in this instance, resources will be allocated to alleviate the scarcity situation by engineering alternative materials or becoming more efficient with our processes depending on the actual situation. Goods that are genuinely scarce would be allocated by need of the general population. So that's my answer.
Yeah, it's good.
Sounds solid, dude.
I think I can't remember if it was David or Adam. Sorry, it was one of you two. I think it was David actually. He was mentioning, it's not just doing well; it's by what measure we decide that we're doing well. You just kind of said something along those lines, and so yeah, it's how we decide what is good that is more, well, not good, but better, more appropriate.
And can we please name the method by which we will decide this?
That is the scientific method.
Yay!
Yeah, so that's just a good point I wanted to just reiterate.
Shall I read the answer because I want to know?
Yeah, please. It's quite a long one, so if you want to tag out, just say.
No, I'm good, man. I'm good. So, TVP FAQ number 48. How are resources distributed equitably? Distribution of goods and services without the use of money or tokens would be accomplished by establishing distribution centres. These centres will be similar to expositions, where the advantages of new products are explained and demonstrated. Exhibition centres will display what is new and available and will constantly be updated. If you visited Yellowstone National Park, you could check out a camera or a camcorder, use it and then return it to another distribution centre or drop off, eliminating storage and maintenance. Besides computerized centres throughout the communities where products would eventually be displayed, there will be 3D flat screen imaging in each home. If you design an item, an order can be placed and the item automatically delivered directly to your place of residence without a price tag, servitude or debt of any kind. This includes whatever people need, such as housing, clothing, education, healthcare, entertainment, etc. Raw materials for products can be transported directly to manufacturing facilities by automated transportation sequences using boats, monorails, maglev trains, pipelines and pneumatic tubes. An automated computerized inventory system would integrate the distribution centers and manufacturing facilities, coordinating production to meet demand. In this way, a balanced load economy can be maintained. Shortages, overruns and waste could be eliminated. Eventually, goods and services will be mass-produced in such abundance as to be too cheap to monitor. Today, there is more than 75% waste in the production of material goods. In a resource-based economy, all waste would be recycled. The priority would be designing things of the highest quality so that products would last longer and require little or no service. Many electronic parts will use plug-in components for convenient repair. There would be no planned obsolescence just to sell the latest designs or fashions. This would eliminate considerable waste. Energy can also be conserved in the loading and unloading of materials in transport systems. For instance, instead of unloading separate containers, an entire freight section will be disengaged from a cargo ship and replaced with another so that the ship does not waste time at the dock during loading and unloading. The same method can be applied to trains and planes. There will be one compartment for passengers and baggage, which can be disengaged from the plane or train as a new section is loaded, so that the vehicle is more effective and conserves time and energy. All transportation will be operated electrically. In a cybernated society, people will have more time for individual interests such as going back to school, working in the arts and sciences, travelling, etc. There will be many choices for exploring, studying, enjoying and participation. Professions that are non-contributing such as banking, insurance, advertising, marketing, sales, the military, lawyers, stockbrokers, etc. will evolve into activities that are more useful.
Solid.
Yeah.
I have a doubt about one thing.
Go on.
When we create so much abundance, how do we deal with storage? How do we store the products we will make in abundance?
I guess eventually, shouldn't we wouldn't make in abundance, we'd just make absolutely what we need. So there's never waste. You have enough, but you wouldn't just, overmake anything. There's no point in mass producing beyond what we'd use.
I like the example. I try and give an example of, say, we were bikes. People want a bike. They just, I don't know whether you've seen I think it's in Japan, where they just park the bike up and it goes underground.
Yeah.
Well, I'm imagining something like that. But when you park your bike up, say you've got a puncture or something, when it goes underground, it gets fixed as well. And then the next one that's at the top of the cycle that's already been fixed ages ago, that gets brought up for the next person. But yeah, I think, and this is way into a resource-based economy when we've figured out how to do it and all the variables, but I guess in a computer would work out how many people are going to need a bike that day or shit like that.
Yeah. So we wouldn't just have billions of bikes and be piling them on a scrap heap like we do today. We'd just have as many as we need, and then we'd be like, cool, bikes are done, next thing.
Yeah, I would think there would be at least some buffer
Oh
store.
yeah, absolutely.
Very likely, as Mick said, underground, big underground warehouses, probably completely dark, automated, running at very cold temperatures or hot temperatures actually, it would be underground, but unneeded to be cooled or whatever, would likely be where a bunch of stuff would be stored. Another thing you said about bikes, we wouldn't have tons of bikes. The bikes that start breaking down, you actually use your waste and you break it down into its parts, and then you remake the new bikes out of the old bikes, or remake a toaster or anything. So the kind of, as things get turned over slowly, because hopefully the engineering will be there that things will last a lot longer, and because there's shared usage, and they'll be kind of hopefully self-repairing or in a way that they can be maintained very easily. So things will be around for a lot longer, and then as they start breaking down, it will actually reclaim the chemicals or materials and put it back into something else. So the kind of trash problem isn't too much of an issue, and hopefully by the end you wouldn't even be having to manufacture that much stuff because everything's already there.
Sorry, did I disrupt? Okay. First, before I even chime in, I don't even know if there's a point. Elio, was your question answered?
Yeah, it was answered, but I had another question after that. What happens if, say, lots of people get a bike in Manchester and loads of them drop the bike in London? Would there be a surplus of bike in London and a deficit of bikes in Manchester?
I think maybe like yeah, there's like a limit on how far you can travel with a bike. Like they might say like, no, you can't go that far with that bike. I don't know. Maybe you could drop it into some underground system and then it'll rejoin like miles away. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's the point of the buffers, isn't it? You sort of got a little buffer just in case for some reason. A lot of people take bikes somewhere, but you've got a tiny bit of a buffer, and then you might just need people to move them back, or have some machines to, you know, take a big lorry load back or whatever.
Yeah, automated trucks taking them back.
Could we also make use of the say the data available, and we see the trends are changing, and say put more bikes in the London area because more people are using the bikes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much so. That kind of it is economic forecasting would be used to meet, to keep track of where the demand is and make sure you meet that supply, meet that demand with supply, kind of thing. So there's a definite element in TVP which uses the good things out of capitalism, which I quite like. The kind of economic forecasting as a concept, TV brings in these concepts from many different things. Even though you think we're anti-capitalism, well, we want to use bits of it in a different context.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One thing I also heard Jack Fresco talking about was about what's the example he gave? It's like I think he says something like if in China they need a lot of houses at this moment, we ship houses made out of these memory metals so they can occupy less space. Maybe that could be used with many other things, like I don't know, bicycles and cars. So we maybe have less space to store.
Yeah, tiny little bike, put it in a glass of water.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in Dragon Ball, I don't know if you guys ever watched that.
Capsule.
The capsule.
Elio, your question was actually answered in, I can't remember. So when Jack and Roxanne went on the major global tour,
yeah,
they visited Scotland, and in that specific video, it's an hour and something, he actually draws out a plan for a city with movable walls, so that if people do visit one kind of shop, whatever, distribution area, more so than the others, the area, for economic reasons, if people still do drive, the parking area would literally be expanded, and it would, again, so the same reason, the same words, I would say, would be apt to use, like Aiden called economic forecasting. So Fresco literally said that, indeed, if people happen to visit one area more so than the others, you would see the change in environment to allow for the direct feedback of what people are doing, so that the people are going to keep doing that thing they're doing, but more comfortably, less energy, less chaos, more predictability.
The ultimate smart city.
Right.
Understood. Cool.
Really good questions, though. Thanks for.
We
thanks for asking.
live in a world where
Sorry. Trying to find this video that you mentioned, Judas. Never mind. Cool. Well, do we have anything else for today? It's been really great, everyone. It's been really good to have you all here and get your different perspectives.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I'm not around next week in Germany, but this is something I could definitely devote an hour of my time to each week. It's really cool.
That's it. Pop us in your calendars. I'll add all you guys into the group that gets invites. And if it's getting to Monday like 8:30 and I haven't shared the link, just message the page, or I'm going to share with you guys my personal Facebook as well. Just message me. Any of the guys that Mick I know will be happy to share with you the link.
Yeah. I'll share mine in a sec. My computer just glitched. Hayden, can I talk to you after the hangout?
Yeah, that's fine.
This is me, guys.
Cool. Right, I'm just going to stop the broadcast. So thank you everyone for watching, or anyone who's come back to watch these videos.